again. I thought the engine unboxing was a bit erratic on the last video, so I thought I'd spread out the contents of one of the boxes so you could actually see what came, and just make it a bit clearer. For some reason the camera wouldn't focus very well either, so I'll see if we can solve that problem at the beginning of this one. Hopefully pick up the fuel tank sometime this coming week and talk about prices for the engines. The more observant of you may have noticed that my New Year's weight loss progress has gone as well as last year's, in that my attempts to lower my BMI by removing parts of my body is partially successful, in that I've managed to take off a bit more of another finger. So yeah, New Year's resolutions and losing weight, it's going all right. And on that note, I'll show you some engines. Okay, so this is the contents of the boxes laid out. As you can see, we've got the can of Pilsner in a glass. I guess we'll probably crack that open if we when we get the engine running. Below that we've got two sets of 3 coils. Guess dual ignition with the block of 3 coils in each of those packs there. We've got a regulator rectifier in the box there, and next one down is a fuel pump. Then on the top here we've got a carburettor. We've got the engine mounting rubbers behind that, and then we've got a trio of instruments. So we've got an oil temperature gauge, an RPM gauge, and an oil pressure gauge. And there's also a nice little toolbox with, I guess, the spanners and stuff you need. And what else is in there? Oh, that look like carb fittings and mountings for pumps and that sort of thing are in there. There's a set of HT leads on there, and then there's looks like a propeller mounting plate or an engine plate of some sort there. I guess it's probably the propeller boss plate. So that's the contents of the box all laid out. Nice little setup, nicely done. I'm thinking I might use these instruments, go for the one with the instruments in it, and I'll see if I can get a bit better picture of the actual engine now for you. Okay, so that's the back of the engine you've already seen. Nice looking piece of kit, nice and shiny new. And moving around it, you can see here we've got the front starter motor, and I don't know how secure it is on here, but that's the front of the engine. Oil filter, starter motor there, oil filter there, and the propeller boss is going to be there. I'll gently put that down again. So there we go, all nicely blanked off as well. I noticed the exhaust ports, so we need to sort out an exhaust system for it, and we need to sort out an oil tank and a propeller. So the expense is going to keep coming. The only downside is I'm pretty sure this is going to take most of my budget that I managed to save for the aeroplane. So we might be scrimping and saving a bit for the last bit, but we'll worry about that when we get to it. But there we go, hopefully a better view of what was in the box. Yeah, nice shiny looking thing, and I think an MZ engine might be a little bit cheaper, but it's not a radial, is it? You know, there's something about having those. I preferred 5 cylinders, but there's something about having those 3 cylinders on there that will make it look a bit more like its original counterpart. So now I know what instruments I'm going to need. I've been having a look at the instrument panel. it's going to be a squeeze really, but I'm thinking something like that possibly. Well, temperature and pressure, turn and slip. I did say I wanted to be a major instrument, but I was forgetting about the RPM gauge, so that could go there. Airspeed indicator, go up there, altimeter to its right, and then I've got the problem with the compass. Compass is a problem, it won't go there. We'll just go above there at a squeeze. It will be a squeeze as well to have that on there, but that looks like a reasonable setup. I'll have a sit and play every so often before I come up with anything else. Obviously what's missing there is switches. I was toying with the idea of having an old brass light switch as they were in the originals, but from this point here in the airframe there's an angle that comes out, and I could just put a panel under that. I'll mock it up and I'll show it on the airplane, just a possibility, just simply a panel for switches, you know, mag switches, mag switch, 2 lots of mag switches obviously, and maybe a fuel pump switch and that sort of thing, just in one panel might be a possibility. Obviously there are spaces around that I could put them in, but that looks nice. I'm quite comfortable with that. Say RPM gauge, main instrument, turn and slip to the left of that airspeed indicator. That's your main stuff. I mean, so I was talking about turn and slip as the main instrument because of the shape of them mainly. Looks a bit neater, you know, to me in that style with its same shaped instruments that I've got, and the nice round RPM in the middle. A bit like my car, RPM main instrument. So that's quite a nice setup there, and there's plenty of room for switches over on this side as well. So I'd rather not put another panel if I can help it, but I'd like some sort of nice neat system. I mean, maybe the temperature and pressures can go there, and I can have a row of switches in this space here. The dotted line, I think I've said before, is simply where the 90-degree bend in the cowling top goes. It's not there is the room there, but it's going through 2 pieces of metal. That's the only difference, and that's what that's there for. This piece here, I was thinking of switches, but actually that behind that is the tubing of the cross member behind that, so that's not really a usable space. It's just where it's attached. But that looks, you know, that looks a usable system. But obviously, anybody got any ideas? Always open to suggestions if you come up with anything better than that. But I think that looks okay. So I've got room for 3 or 4 switches of just the general on-off switches, and not worry too much about the main, getting the brass light switch sort of thing. And they're quite expensive. I've looked around for them. They're quite expensive, and they look a bit cheap and tacky, really. So.
Hi folks, I apologise if I'm looking slightly rougher than usual. It's not a very high bar I've set, but I've been down with a bit of the old cold, a bit of the old man flu the last few days, so I've got my sexy telephone voice going as well. But I've come down, feeling a little bit better now, on the way back up again, and I'll show you what I've done today. I've just been pottering again, got the fuel tank back with the lid with the fuel tank top put on it, and I'll show you it anyway. If I start making sense, it'll be a first one. I'll turn it around. Okay, so the fuel tank is once again in temporarily. We've got the fuel filler cap, that's the word I was trying to find out. Filler cap's on there and it's all fitted in, as you can see down there. It fits nicely, the system's worked well, pleased with that. The problem I've got now is that hole there you can see, or the thread there you can see, there's one up above it as well. That's for the fuel pipe, the visual fuel pipe, to see what your fuel levels are. I was thinking about putting a gauge in, but I want to keep it as simple as possible, so I'll probably just use that as it is. The downside is you can't really see the top of it, which is up there. So when you're sat in the seat, you can't see the first, well, certainly the first third of the tank. But then again, to be honest, it's the last third that's the one that you worry about, isn't it, really? But I figured if I put a mirror on the sidewall there, just a little convex mirror, that would solve my problem, really. I'd be able to see the top of the fuel tank as well, or just check before I get in the aeroplane, wouldn't hurt, would it? So I don't think that's a problem. I think I'll go with it where it is, and you may see from there that I've put the plywood sides, I've cut those to shape. Both of those are done. I've put the wrong side on really for the visual effect, but I've got those both cut. Just thinking at the minute, spent a bit of time. I'm going to have a cup of tea and a bit of a think about fixing these, but I'll show you on the other side what I'm thinking, and that is to use the P-clips, which I've put a couple on here to look at. So there's a P-clip there. I'm just basically thinking, tighten that up onto the wood, job's a good one. And the same here, we can put them all along, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, however many are required. I've got to wadger those, a couple of different sizes for the different size tubes, but I think those will work fine. I've got to sort out the fuel plumbing, of course. There is a Curtis drain valve down there. Need some sort of filter in the line there. But obviously a fuel filter's the regular anyway. And there's a fuel trap at the bottom, just between the outlet and the Curtis drain valve, so that should work fine. I think that's it. That's as far as I've got today, really. Just thinking and looking at stuff. But yeah, I think that that visual sight tube will work fine. Tank's going to have to come out again, obviously. I just wanted to make sure everything worked and fitted, and it does. Still like the idea of the original leather work to join the top cowling, and that's it really. Getting underway with I've spoken to a welder, a CIA welder, about the engine mount. I'm going to give him some proper dimensions tonight. That's the wooden plywood on one side. I picked up some thinner ply than the one that came in the kit. There wasn't enough in the kit anyway, so I've picked up some thinner ply, and I've P-clipped that on, as you can see. Possibly going to need a couple of self-tappers just down here. You can see I've marked a couple of spots there, because that goes into one of the gusset plates there. I mean, it'll be behind the wing anyway, but I think it'll just be nice to have it tied down there. I was thinking about putting one at the top there. You can possibly see there's a little blue dot there. I was thinking of putting one there, but then I'm thinking, well, actually that's going to be where the leather is and the tying up, so it'll tighten up against the cockpit coaming anyway, so I possibly won't bother with that one. So fuel tank's out. I've drilled the holes for the sight tube. I'll show you those if I can squeeze past here. So those are the two holes there, bottom one, top one for the sight tube. Need a couple of angles and some clear tube for that. I've just got to give it a quick flushing out since I drilled it. I've put a couple of extra rubbers on the top there, you can see. That's just because of I put some anchor nuts in there to hold it in, and they're just a little bit tight against that side, so I'll just put some cushioning in there. So that's it. I've also been playing, as you can see from my dimensions here, with the engine mount. I've been messaging the welder for those. He's going to look into that. I'm not sure. That square, you can see that crossing the centre is the central point of the fuselage there. The engine mountings are those 1, 2, 3-4 points there that are measured, the crosses there. So the engine is a tiny bit below the central thrust line, if you like, but I think I might go a little bit lower than that, because the reason I put it as high as I could, there is about a couple of centimetres, an inch or so between the top of that cylinder and the top of the cowl in there. About an inch. I might make that an inch and a half, you know, maybe 3-4 centimetres, something like that. But the reason it's high is I've got to get an oil tank below it somewhere. Obviously the engine's got to come forwards that by a foot, 30 centimetres forwards, so I can get it behind, but the oil cooler has to go below the centre of the below the engine, basically. The inlet and outlet have got to be below the engine to save any blowback or whatever. So that will have to go right at the bottom, so hence I've given myself as much room as I can at the top, but I'm still thinking about that before I make a final decision on the engine mount. And that's it, basically. Well, there we go, I've got both sides on. That was a bit of a pain in the arse to do, but they're both on. Come around this side, and the other side's on there as well. As I promised myself when I started doing these videos, I thought I'd show you my cock-ups as well. So I got it on, got the first one in place, first P-clip in place, and then I hadn't noticed it had slipped. So, and I'd got 3 more bolts in before I realised. So I'm going to fill those, going to have a little bit of filling to do. So I'll take these off again, as is the way when building aeroplanes. Put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off. So that's my next plan. Going to have a cup of tea, and then I'll take it off. That's what it looks like inside at the moment. As you can see, the bolts I've used were extended. They're too long for practical use, but they're much easier to get the P-clips on first time. Hopefully once they've been in place a little while, they've bent into place. But so I'll get those taken out when I've had a cup of tea, and then see what the next job is. I guess I need to start looking at that instrument panel. That's a possibility. Oh, you might have noticed that I've actually covered that V-strut with the covering with the vinyl. I've done a really crap job. Not very happy with that at all, but it was so awkward to do on the with them off of the airframe. So I don't know what to do about that, whether to give it another go or what. But we'll see. We'll see. Won't see it at 2,000 feet, will you?